have responded to our calls for mitigation, for social distancing. American people have great resiliency, and I am so incredibly proud of how the American people have responded. As the President mentioned, he asked us to be aggressive, to break down barriers to innovation, and to accelerate the development of life-saving treatments. And we're doing that at the FDA. The FDA is committed to continuing to provide regulatory flexibility and guidance. But let me make one thing clear. FDA's responsibility to the American people is to ensure that products are safe and effective. And yet we are continuing to do that. Our folks and their tremendous professionals are working day and night to do this. Just can't even imagine how much they're working to provide the support for the American people, and I thank them. Since early January, long before the first domestic case, FDA began working in collaboration with CDC. I also want to note that we stood up an incident command group and have been focused on the coronavirus since the very beginning of this public health emergency. This is an addition in all of government and all America approach, and I'll describe what I mean by that in terms of the development of therapeutics. An important part of that work is expanding the potential therapeutic options associated with coronavirus, and we learn from our colleagues across the globe about this. But I want to focus on one thing. I was a cancer researcher before this, and one thing I know about this great country of ours is that we have unbelievable innovators. We have people who every day it's their job to develop treatments for all sorts of diseases. We are incredibly blessed as a country to have this. And as is true in any illness, these great American innovators, academia, private sector, they have engaged us about the best possible treatment options. We are looking at everything that's coming across our desks as possible treatment options for coronavirus. And we're extremely encouraged by the interest and the promise that we've seen from these great American innovators. Now again, when we look at it, the data, the information, the absolute best decisions for American people. But I want to assure you, we have over 17,000 people at FDA who are doing this every day. We need to make sure that this sea of new treatments will get the right drug to the right patient at the right dosage at the right time. As an example, we may have the right drug, but may not be the appropriate dosage for you right now, and that may prove more than good. Those are the things that's our job to look at, and that's why it's really important to have these dedicated professionals working on these aspects of therapeutic development. At the same time, we're also working through different mechanisms to actually get drugs into the hands of providers and patients. The President mentioned this, but one of the mechanisms is called compassionate use. Let me just tell you about this. If there's an experimental drug that's potentially available, a doctor could ask for that drug to the patient. We have criteria for that. We're very speedy approval for that. The important thing about compassionate use, and that's what the President did, this is even beyond Right to Try, is that we get to collect the information about that. Because one of the things that we promised the American people is we will collect the data and then make the absolute right decisions based upon those data about the safety and efficacy of the treatments. We are working expeditiously, and we are working to make sure that these products are as safe and effective as they possibly can be. Let me tell you about a few things that we're currently working on. And this is a plan that was developed with many of the people at this table, the infectious disease experts on the task force. In the short term, we're looking at drugs that are already approved for other indications. So they're already approved, as the President said, for other diseases. As an example, many Americans have read studies and heard media reports about this drug chloroquine, which is an anti-malarial drug. It's already approved, as the President said, for the treatment of malaria as well as an arthritis condition. That's a drug that the President has directed us to take a closer look at as to whether an expanded use approach to that could be done to actually see if that benefits patients. And again, we want to do that in the setting of a clinical trial, a large pragmatic clinical trial, to actually gather that information and answer the question that needs to be asked and answered. Let me give you another example. There's a cross-agency effort about something called convalescent plasma. This is a pretty exciting area, and again, this is something that we have given assistance to other countries with as this crisis has developed. So FDA's been working for some time on this. If you've been exposed to coronavirus and you're better, you don't have the virus in your blood, we could collect the blood. Now this is a possible treatment. This is not a proven treatment. Just want to emphasize that. Collect the blood, concentrate that and have the ability, once it's pathogen-free, that is virus-free, be able to give that to other patients. And the immunoglobulins, the immune response, could potentially provide a benefit to patients. It's another thing that we're looking at. Over the next couple of weeks, we'll have more information that we're really pushing hard to try to accelerate that. That's in the sort of more medium short term, and that'll be a bridge to other therapies that will take us 3 to 6 months to develop. And this is a continuous process. There is no beginning and end to each of this. This is, we're pushing this through. The other great thing about the great innovators of America is some of them tell us it's taken us years to develop therapies. They're looking at pushing that to the months period of time. And we're trying to provide them the regulatory flexibility, but at the same time the scientific oversight to make sure that gets done in the best way possible for the American people. The President mentioned that there is a vaccine trial currently being performed. It's a phase 1 trial, so it's the earliest study that gets done. We expect that to take 12 months to get to completion, to actually a time when we could approve a vaccine. But these are all things to bridge to the prevention part of this with the vaccine. It's exciting work, and the President is right. This is record time for the development of the vaccine, and impressive public-private partnership. The FDA's efforts to facilitate the development of these products are focused on ensuring timely access while also meeting the agency's world-respected gold standard, relying on strong data from clinical trials to determine if an experimental or an off-the-shelf drug that's used for something else can safely and effectively treat patients. We want to assure the American people that FDA is all hands on deck, as the President mentioned, these efforts, and continue to work with interested sponsors to help expedite the work. We remain steadfast in helping to foster the development of safe and effective therapies for COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. The White House Coronavirus Task Force met this morning, and on this very first day of spring, we continue to make steady progress toward President Trump's objective not only to marshal all the resources of the federal government, every state government, every local health official, but also to harness the power of the American private sector, and activities over the last day reflect all of those priorities. Yesterday, the President spoke with America's top physicians and nurses and garnered helpful insights about how we can best serve those who are serving Americans that are dealing with the coronavirus. We also had a productive call with over 5,000 state and local officials explaining the federal government's approach and our strong and seamless partnership with all 50 states and the territories. Last night, as you heard, the President signed the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, which provides free coronavirus testing, paid sick leave, family leave for caregivers, and food assistance for the needy, among a broad range of benefits. And today, as the President indicated, we expect that the Senate will begin work on an economic relief package. Later today, the President and I will meet again in a teleconference with the nation's governors. We will meet at the National Response Coordination Center at FEMA and outline President Trump's decision to have FEMA take the lead in our national coronavirus response. Our nation's response through FEMA will be locally executed, state managed, and federally supported. On testing, we want the American people to know once again that testing is available in all 50 states and is becoming increasingly available literally every hour of the day. Because of the public-private partnership that the President initiated several weeks ago with major commercial labs, I'm pleased to receive a report today that tens of thousands of tests are being performed every day. And with the passage of last night's legislations, state and private labs are now required by law to report all coronavirus testing directly to the CDC, which will give the American public and also give our researchers timely and important information. It's important for every American to remember that if you don't have symptoms, you don't need to get a test. We want to make sure the testing is available for people that are experiencing symptoms or have a genuine concern about having been exposed to someone with the coronavirus. Dr. Birx will address county-level data as well as the progress we've made on testing, and Americans can expect to see how an increased number of cases as our new testing system comes online should not be a cause of concern. She'll explain the importance of taking into account our new testing system as new data arrives over the next several days. On supplies, a priority the President has given to our task force, we continue to work with healthcare providers, businesses, and state leadership to identify available supplies, not merely in the federal stockpile, but much more importantly, available across the private sector. We're encouraged to see companies like Honeywell and 3M that I visited a few short weeks ago take advantage of the changes in the law last night that allow the sale of industrial masks directly to hospitals. Those companies have now greatly increased by the tens of millions their production of so-called N95 masks that will give our healthcare workers the protection that they need to minister to those that are dealing with the symptoms or the disease of coronavirus. Following the signing of last night's bill, all of those masks now have liability protection, and the companies can sell industrial masks to hospitals. It is encouraging, as we called out yesterday, to see construction companies all across America that are, as we speak, checking their supplies and donating those industrial masks to their local hospitals. And I know I speak on behalf of the President. We spent a lot of time as a builder when we thank builders across America for partnering with our local healthcare officials. On the subject of ventilators, we're working with healthcare providers around America and suppliers. We're encouraged to learn that we've literally identified tens of thousands of ventilators that can be converted to treat patients. And we remain increasingly confident that we will have the ventilators that we need as the coronavirus makes its way across America. But as we said before, we're all in this together. And before I step away and give the podium back to the President and to Dr. Birx, I want to call every American's attention again to the President's 15 days to slow the spread. We continue to hear one case after another, one city after another, where people are putting into practice principles that the President outlined this Monday. And make no mistake about it, that while for the American people as a whole the risk of serious illness remains low, these guidelines should be practiced by every American in every community, not only to lessen the spread of the coronavirus, but to protect the most vulnerable among us. I think Americans from their hearts are not only practicing these principles of social distancing, avoiding social gatherings of more than 10 people, using drive-thrus at restaurants, protect their own health and the health of their family. They're also recognizing that no American wants to inadvertently convey the coronavirus to someone for whom the consequences could be quite serious. At the President's direction, we'll continue to marshal all the resources of government at every level. We'll be reiterating that strong partnership with America's states this afternoon, with America's governors, pulling all of the private sector energy together, the innovation that you just heard described. I know on this first day of spring that we'll get through this, and we'll get through this together. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I know you're watching the data carefully. You can see the dramatic increases in the number of new cases based on our ability to test additional people. And this will continue over the next 2 to 3 days as we begin to have backlogs reduced of the testing. You all have heard the antidotes of people waiting 5 or 6 days for their test results. We are moving through all of that as well as testing individuals. I really want to applaud the frontline healthcare workers, the nurses and the doctors and the testers that have really prioritized, and the American people who have prioritized those with symptoms. The number of test positives is increasing. That is a dramatically important signature that everybody is doing their job. Those with mild symptoms are staying home, self-isolating. Those with serious symptoms are coming forward to getting testing. Our test positive rates are now into the 10 to 11% range. That still means that 90% of the illnesses out there, even the severe ones, are not COVID-19. I know many of you are looking at the state level data. Still over 50% of the cases come from 3 states. This is why we continue to prioritize testing in those states. In addition, 50% of the cases come from 10 counties. We're a very large country with very many counties, and I just want to applaud the local and state governments that are implementing their emergency emergency operations centers and plans to ensure. I want to also really thank the healthcare workers that have been asked to reduce all elective surgeries, medical, and dental visits. This will dramatically increase the number of ventilators that are available in hospitals, but also in ambulatory surgical centers that can be converted and utilized. And also to the construction industry. We are deeply grateful the number, as Vice President said, the number of individuals have come forward with their construction masks, their booties, their Tyvek suits, and their masks to contribute them to the healthcare sector. The President's request to make this available in the legislation changes the ability and increases our availability immediately by the 75 to 90% range because the amount of construction use of those elements. Thank you.
Thank you. Drew?
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. Today, you heard a wonderful announcement from the FDA, and I just want to give a shout out to Steve, Dr. Hahn, and the folks at the FDA, where several hundred of my Commission for Officers work. You're right, Mr. President. They are tireless. They're doing things that have never been done before to bring the most prudent advances to the American people. But I want to talk about something different briefly. We know many of you are home practicing the President's guidelines for social distancing. But one thing we should all consider, especially our millennials and Gen Z, is donating blood. As an anesthesiologist who still practices at Walter Reed taking care of our wounded warriors and our soldiers, I know donated blood is an essential part of caring for patients, and one donation can save up to 3 lives. Blood centers are open now and in need of your donation. I want America to know that blood donation is safe, and blood centers are taking extra precautions at this time based on new CDC recommendations, including spacing beds 6 feet apart, disinfecting surfaces between patients, temperature checking staff, and encouraging donors to make appointments ahead of time so we can space them out. Social distancing does not have to mean social disengagement. So give blood today. You'll feel good about it, and you'll be helping your country and your community during this crisis. And you might even save a life.
President, switching to the efforts to boost the economy with the money for Congress, will you guarantee an employment of millions, tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars even, this can go to these industries that will not go to executive bonuses or stock buybacks? Will we not let that affect some companies?
President had me go to Minnesota to meet with 3M that manufactures these N95 masks a few weeks ago. And we learned their production at that facility of 35 million masks a month. Less than 5 million of those were qualified to be sold to hospitals. So the President worked with Republican and Democrat leadership. We've extended the liability protection. So now that all the industrial masks that are manufactured as N95s are now available to hospitals, and we're seeing a dramatic increase in production. Honeywell alone is repurposing a factory that was destined for Mexico to produce another 120 million masks per year. 3M is increasing output to 420 million masks per year. We put a priority in the President's direction on making sure those that are providing healthcare services to America have the protection to keep themselves and their families safe. And with the legislation last night, incredible response among these great private sector companies, and as we mentioned from the video, the construction companies around America heeding the President's call to donate their industrial masks to hospitals. It's happening all over America. We know we'll meet that need.
At least we start getting them ready.
Well, as I mentioned, 3M is increasing their output to 420 million a year. At production in January, they make 35 million per month at that facility, and we're prioritizing the distribution of those. But the other thing, and we'll emphasize this with governors this afternoon, is we're working with governors to make sure that the healthcare providers, the hospitals, and the clinics in their state are placing orders now that this tremendous increase in supply, particularly with industrial masks, is now available. We're going to make sure they understand that the supply has greatly expanded thanks to bipartisan legislation and the accomplishment of the President. And the response by these companies is making more masks available. And we're going to make sure healthcare providers are purchasing those. And the federal government will also make sure that our stockpile properly reflects those increases as well.
So, on the President's question, when will those masks be ready for? Because they need them like today.
They're available now. The 3M facility that I was at told me that in January they went to full production on 35 million masks. The legislative change means that all 35 million of those that started to be produced at full capacity in January can now be sold to hospitals. That's the distinction here. It's a very important change, and it's part of the way the President has been engaging the private sector, pushing the kind of regulatory reform and the kind of liability reform that has greatly expanded the availability of masks. So they're in the marketplace